Greetings everyone, welcome to Storytime with T2. Today I'll be discussing the book The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I've already talked about this book before. I said I didn't like, I like the book. I like the story behind it. But I don't think Cormac McCarthy is a very good writer. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He kind of does. He knows some really crazy, obscure words. And I said before that I think he makes some words up. Or he takes common words that we know and he sticks them together in weird ways that makes them not really words. He's just making shit up. He also does this thing where, like this, he doesn't indent on paragraphs. He indents when there's dialogue. And he doesn't say who said what. Like, here's a dialogue right here. Who said that? I fucking don't know. The guy says, what is it, Papa? So I must assume that it must be the guy that's not Papa. It's the other kid. And the other guy talking must be Papa, and you have to assume that there's two people talking, so there's a lot of assumptions you have to make in this. But I don't think he's a very good writer. He has like a different writing style, and a lot of writers have their own style, and I understand that. But artistic license, you can only take it so far before it becomes something stupid and ridiculous. Like when artists start using human feces on paintings, that's a little ridiculous. We don't need that. It's gone too far. Like I understand, like Orson Scott Card, he has like a writing style with the Ender's Game series where he has two guys talking at the beginning of each chapter. Kind of a little sub-chapter of its own, kind of leads you in, lets you know what's going on in the background of the main story. I like that. It makes sense. It's cool. Wish other people would do it. Stephen King does this thing where he will have what the character is thinking in italics, like when he's going crazy, when he's like losing his mind, what is going through his head, he'll put it in italics, and that's like a writing style. I understand that there are writing styles, but this is just, it's just bad. He makes sentences that are like run-on sentences, and some sentences are just like one word. Like, here's a sentence. Ratty. Ratty is a sentence right there. Just a description of what's going on. Let me read it from you from this page 22. There was an antique pump organ in the corner. I'm on dictionary.com right now, looking up the word pump organ, and it is not on there. The word pump, we know. The word organ, we know, but you put them together, doesn't make sense. I would have said accordion. We know what an accordion is. It's an organ that you pump to make music. I wouldn't call it a pump organ. Unless, see, I'm assuming Cormac McCarthy is an old man, probably about 60, 70 years old. I don't know, never seen the guy, never heard of like what he actually looks like. Let me look it up and see if I'm correct. Just making an assumption based on his writing style. Cormac McCarthy. And images. What do you fucking know? Cormac McCarthy. I just guessed that, just from his writing style. This is not me being an idiot. This is me knowing shit. I've never looked this up, I swear to you. It's my first time seeing his actual face. Alright, so then the same paragraph, a television set, that's supposed to be a sentence. Cheap stuffed furniture together with an old handmade cherrywood chifferobe. Now, chifferobe is an actual word. I looked it up. It is a piece of furniture having both drawers and space for hanging clothes. Who has heard of the word chifferobe before? Anyone? Have you ever used it in your everyday life, in your conversation? It is an obscure word. It is just so obscure that you don't need it. And you don't need to be putting it with paragraphs that already have made-up words in them because that makes it just even more complicated. Nobody needs that shit. If we continue on to page 39, here we have the guys walking on the road, and he's describing the road. And it says, let's see. Late in the day, they came to a place where the fire had crossed the road, and the macadam was still warm, and further on it began to soften underfoot. I'm like, what the hell is macadam? So I looked it up. It is a macadamized road or pavement. Okay. So, okay, pavement can get warmer. I don't know how it can soften. If it's then definition 2 is the broken stone used in making such a road. So if it's stone, it can't really soften because stone doesn't really get softer as it gets hotter. It's named after a Scottish engineer and inventor from 1815 to 1825. How obscure is that? And then you go on and says, the hot black mastic, sucking at their shoes and stretching in thin bands as they stepped. What the hell is mastic? It sounds like some kind of muckety muck that you would step in, like mud or some kind of tar pit. Mastic. Also called mastic tree, a small Mediterranean tree of the cashew family. Can't be that. You can't step in a tree. Any of several similar related trees? No. The resin obtained from the mastic. Okay, so the resin they use in this road is obtained from this mastic tree, and that's what he's calling the mastic. Who the hell would know what that word is or ever used it before in their life? And on the next page 51, I like this. He uses the word sweat blackened, which isn't a word, but you can tell what it means. It's when you have a piece of leather that you get all sweaty and it turns black. So that's acceptable because it makes sense. You can think about it and understand it pretty easily. Like pump organ, kind of makes sense, but it's just a bad word. It's just like making up stuff. If you already have a word that means that, just say accordion. Don't say pump organ. I'm starting to think this guy must have been some kind of construction worker or a carpenter before he became a writer, because a lot of these words have a lot to do with construction materials. That's probably why I'm not familiar with them. Page 105, we got a sentence that says, the house was tall and stately with white Doric columns across the front. A porte-cochere at the side. What is Doric and what is cochere? Let's have a look-see. Doric. D-O-R-I-C. 4 results of or pertaining to Doris and inhabitants or the dialect. No. Rustic as a dialect. No, it's not anything to do with language. Architecture. Noting or pertaining to one of the 5 classical orders developed in Greece and altered by the Romans. The Greek Doric order consists typically of a channeled column without a base having a capital or circular echinus supporting a square abacus, above which come a plain architrave, a frieze of triglyphs and metopes, and a cornice, the corona of which has mutules on its soffit. Well, obviously, why didn't I know that? That's what that is. Okay. That's another one of those words, actually. On the next page, the peeling paint hanging in long dry sleevings down the columns and from the buckled soffits. Let's look at what a soffit is. To understand the definition of Doric, we have to know what a fucking soffit is. Architecture. The underside of an architectural feature as a beam, arc, ceiling, vault, or cornice. Okay. A porte-cochere at the side. Let's see, what's a cochere? Or cocherie, or I don't know how you say that. No results. It's not in the dictionary. Maybe you gotta put port in front of it. Porte-cochere. Porte-cochere. This is not on a dictionary, but it's in the related. A porch large enough for a carriage to pass through. Oh, it's like a coach porch. It's a porch for your coach. It's like a driveway with a thing over the roof. With a roof. Yeah. Why don't you just say that? Nah, it wouldn't really work. It's kind of like at the hotel when they drop you off with the dudes that drive your cars, the valets. I guess it's one of those. A porte-cochere. Yellow dentil molding. That's like another architecture thing. What's dentil molding? Any series of closed space, small rectangular blocks used in classical architecture beneath the coronas of Ionic, Corinthian, or composite cornices. There's a lot of fucking architecture words in here. Apparently he built roads and he would build houses. I don't know. I should probably look into his history and see if he actually did anything like that. These are just some of the words I'm flipping through and finding. It's not like it's the only things, but there was a lot of stuff. It's just kind of like, some of it's good if it's like a little obscure because it's more descriptive, let you know what he's talking about, but then you just get stuck on a word and this brings you to a screeching halt and takes you out of the story. You have to stop and figure out what the hell he's talking about, and sometimes you get to where you'll read a sentence over and over and over again, trying to understand it. Like your brain gets stuck. Here's a cane brake. Coming through the cane brake into the road, he'd seen a box. I guess that's like a field of cane, like sugar cane, and then that's where it breaks and you have something else, like some grass. I'm just guessing. When he got to the pines, he knelt and laid him in the gritty duff. D-U-F-F. Is that like a bunch of pine needles? Let's see if it's in the dictionary. Duff. 10 results. The buttocks or rump. Nope, it's not that. It's like Hillary Duff has a duff. Stiff flour pudding. No, he didn't put him in any flour pudding. To give a deceptive appearance to. No, that's a verb. It's gotta be a noun. Organic matter in various stages of decomposition on the floor of a forest. Bam, that's it. How the fuck would anybody know that? Who refers to... I would call that, what's that word? Starts with an H? Hummus or humus? Yeah, hummus. A brown or black organic substance consisting of partially or wholly decayed vegetable or animal matter that provides nutrients for plants and increases the ability of soil to retain water. I would have went with that, because I'm more familiar with hummus, I guess, than duff. But, okay. I guess if you just read through this book and anytime you get to a word you don't understand, assume it's some kind of architecture or some shit on the ground, then you will get through it pretty easily. The billboards had been whited out with thin coats of paint in order to write on them, and through the paint could be seen a pale palimpsest of advertisements for goods which no longer existed. Palimpsest. Or palimpsest. I'm not sure how you would say that. A parchment or the like from which writing has been partially or completely erased to make room for another text. Why would you make a word for that if you have something that's kind of halfway fucked up? You would make a word that means something that's partially erased to make room for another. That doesn't even make sense to me. But it's a word. I guess he's got me on that one. Palimpsest. I guess the whole point of writing is to convey what's in your mind to somebody else's. And if you're dealing with like an 80-year-old's mind who grew up in a different time when different words meant different things, it's hard to explain what the hell you're talking about, which is probably why, well, some old people will just stay quiet all the time. They don't talk much. And other ones just talk just to hear themselves talk. And nobody ever listens to them because they don't understand their crazy words. It's called the generation gap is what that is. I mean, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to figure out what he means. Some of these words are just so obscure. I think in order to be a good writer, you have to be an avid reader just to like see what everybody else is doing, what words everybody else is using, get the vocabulary of the times. This is a little dated, but you can understand it. I just don't like the way he doesn't explain who's talking in the text and the grammar. The spelling is pretty good. I mean, I usually, when I read a book by a popular author, I'll find at least 3 spelling mistakes throughout the book that the editors missed. The worst case I found was a book by Neil Gaiman, I think, about the superheroes. It's kind of like Heroes or the 4400 or one of those TV shows where a bunch of superheroes are in this thing. The thing was riddled with spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, just like I almost wanted to go back through and just start ticking things off just to see how many there were. I remember I had an assignment in elementary school. I think it was elementary school, maybe in middle school. We were supposed to go home and get our local newspaper and look for spelling and grammar mistakes in it, and whoever would find the most would win a prize. That was fun. Love kind of stuff like that. I kind of know what this is, sort of, because he explains it in the next sentence, sort of. The road descended through a jungle of dead kudzu, a marsh where the dead reeds lay over the water. So the dead kudzu is kind of like a bunch of reeds that have been falling off, like cattails and whatnots that you'd find at a pond. So that's kind of good that he explains it in the next sentence. I'm just going to flip, point at something. Companionway. I guess it's a way for companions to go through. On a boat. Yeah, this is the scene where they're on the boat. He zipped himself into that and pulled onto the stiff yellow breeches from the sou'wester gear. Should that mean southwestern or southwester? I guess he's kind of using slang there. Sou'wester gear. Let me look that up. Sou'wester. That's a waterproof hat, often of oilskin, having the brim very broad behind and slanted, worn especially by seamen. I did not laugh. Sou'wester. I can't believe that's a real word. I thought he was just trying to use some slang. Escarpment. Definition, please. Escarpment. Spelling bees would have a field day with some of these words. Definition, please. Oh, an oilskin hat used by seamen. What? This is a long, precipitous, cliff-like ridge of land, rock, or the like commonly formed by faulting or fracturing of the Earth's crust. I kind of know escarpment because people drive their cars up onto the embankments, and escarpments is similar to an embankment, only it's naturally formed. I kind of already knew what that was. I just wanted to make it sound like it was worse than it is. That was my bad. Creosote. We would not know what that is, except recently people started selling it in Lowe's and Home Depot. It's kind of stuff that builds up in your chimney. Creosote, and you got this removing stuff that gets rid of creosote. So that's kind of made it into the popular vocabulary. There's not like a lot of words in here that are really hard. It's just like they keep turning up like a bunch of bricks in the road that you trip over, and it just pisses you off. Kind of like that map in Modern Warfare 2. Invasion. I'm always tripping over fucking rocks in the road. Which is kind of fitting since the book is about a road that is very hard to travel because everything's dead and there's cannibals and... Actually, Legend of Wayne made a video reviewing the movie if anybody wants to check that out. So it's appropriate that the book is also like a really hard to travel road that you get stuck on and Shit gets in your eyes, and it's kind of annoying, just like the actual experience that these characters are going through. I guess that's kind of appropriate. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the Book of Eli movie.